shot. Fabian Sherwin.
All right. Evening, folks. It's Toon Tactics TV. It's your boy Philip here. I'm fresh back from the Toon. I'm fresh back from Newcastle United, from the Cellar Cup 2-day football fun fair that we had there. Really good to see the team beat Girona, beat beat Brest, and win the Cellar Cup, first trophy of the season and all that. So really excited about that. What I'm really excited about today is our show. Remember, guys, this is the third of a 3-part series in terms of live shows, live streams that I've been doing to help provide like a holistic overall package, getting us ready for the season. In the first show, we had Winter Surfer and I forgot my man, can't believe it, but we were talking about the ownership and the overall structure of the teams there. In the second, we had my man Gokes and my man Chinks representing Man United, representing Chelsea, Man United and Liverpool. And now in this series, in the third and final series, I have got my man. I'm going to first introduce them one by one. I've got my man Ash Matic, who I'm going to be putting on. Just want to say how blessed Tottenham fans are and club are to have this guy as their fan. Not only is he an incredible streamer, content creator, and incredible football knowledge, he's also invited me on his rival show, and it's been a blessing ever since. So let me welcome Ash Matic. How are you doing, sir? How are you doing?
Brother, I'm good. Thanks for having me on. I've watched the last two, really enjoyed them. Love the concept. Big fan, and just keep doing what you're doing, man. Yeah, glad to be here.
I appreciate that, sir. I hope you're ready to talk some ball, ready to talk some football today. And my next guest, I have to give it to him. There's no one that can take a gegenpress like this man, and I'm part of the people that's responsible for it. Like whenever we go on rival shows, as soon as he turns up, it's like we all turn around. It's like, I don't know if you guys watch Lion King, and all the hyenas go Mufasa. That's the feeling when we see him. Like we're just going hot. We're just ready for it. Like he handles it. He shows us the reasons why Ten Hag is still the man for Man United. And as a result, I've become a fan of Ten Hag himself. So all credit to him and his incredible debating skills, but mostly also his incredible football knowledge. Here's my man Yoms. How you doing, sir?
All good, brother. Thanks for having me on, man. Thanks for having me on. Love to all the fans, and even more love to all the haters. You know.
Man, it's great to have you both on, and I'm really looking forward to it. So I've broken the show down into a couple little sections here. Obviously, we're talking about squad building. Now, there's a lot of things that go into squad building: the financials, the scouting, the recruitment, the data, everything. We can't talk about all of that within an hour and a bit that we've got. So I'm going to focus in on the squads themselves, but also the managers and mainly their philosophy on football as well, which is what's going to determine, I guess, how Tottenham, Newcastle, Manchester United, and as well as all the other clubs are going to be doing their recruitment. And is it going to make our squads robust? Are we going to achieve our dreams? Are we going to or are we not going to achieve anything? We're going to find out. So I'm going to kick things off by sharing my visuals first. We'll kick things off with the managers. All right. Can you guys see that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So I've got Ten Hag, Postecoglou, Eddie Howe.
Hey, a bit slim though in that one.
You will like that picture.
I don't know if you noticed, I narrowed it down a little bit and that. So we'll see how it goes. I don't mind who we start with. Maybe I'm a sequential thinker, so I might just start with Ten Hag, but we'll mix it up. We'll see. I mean, the common theme amongst all these managers, just in different ways, obviously, they're all kind of attacking and high pressing managers who do like possession, some a little bit more than others. So there's that kind of common theme in there. But if I go to my man Ten Hag, there's never been a man who's had a more incredible career than this guy, especially at Man United. the biggest criticism. Well, no. Let me go with this kind of what are you kind of expecting for this season. Let me start off with that. What are you hoping for from him this season?
I think he has to have a good season. He's backs against the wall. It can't go much worse than it did last season. And I think there's a lot of fans, that are on the fence with Ten Hag. Evidently, fans back him because we know how terrible the structure at the club has been for so long. And he's not really spending money is one thing, but he's not really been given the opportunity to thrive at United. So I think now everything's in place. I think bringing in Van Nistelrooy and Huck is a masterstroke. I think that's really gonna, because those two have been managers themselves, and what that does is it brings, you've now got a trio who are in charge of the way the team play, the way the team set up, and they will voice their opinions. Like, let's have it proper. Like, they will be saying, this is what we need to be doing. And although Ten Hag will have the final say, and it will be his sword he falls on if the team don't perform, it's good to have people who are not yes men around you. So I think he's been given everything. There's not much more. I'm sure we'll talk about transfers at some stage, but not much more Ineos could have done for Ten Hag this summer. So yeah, he's in a position now where he has to get it right, and I think the signs are there that he knows what he's doing.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Is it going to be a case of too many chefs in the kitchen?
I think that can be the case, but I think it's also the case that these guys have very clear roles, right? So they've not been brought in as managers; they've been brought in as coaches. And if your coaching team is experienced and understand management as well, I think that can only enrich your team. Do you see what I mean? It's not like as if you have a situation where you have two head coaches and the lines are blurred. The lines are very, very clear. Van Nistelrooy is there to help the attacking line, and Ten Hag is there to make the decisions as to who gets game time and what style of football we play. So I think it's really a really good scenario at United now. Ten Hag has literally been, the road has been paved. Now he's got to walk it right. Do you see what I mean? So yeah, I'm happy with the business that Ineos have done this summer. I'm happy with the position Ten Hag's in. I think he's in a really strong position now. There is no player who's sitting there thinking, I'm just going to outlive you, or I'm not going to train, or I'm going to play this way, or I'm not going to press, or I don't know what style of football we're playing, or I'm not going to run. No player can hide now. He's got the squad he wants. He's got the system that he wants. He's got the setup that he wants. So now it's on him. There's no excuses.
I was gonna touch on that a little bit as well, because my thoughts were Van Nistelrooy, who was actually going to take the Burnley job as manager, changed his mind to become obviously assistant for Ten Hag, and he does appear to be, at least for some, including myself, as the heir apparent should something go wrong. And should things go wrong, how willing is he going to be to help Mr. Hag in his times of trouble?
If things go wrong, the seat won't even be warm before Van Nistelrooy jumps in it, right? The seat won't even be cold before Van Nistelrooy jumps in it.
Right.
I think that is a good thing. It gives Ten Hag a little bit of pressure to perform and to get decisions right. But also, in the same way, players need that level of a kick in the backside sometimes. I think sometimes managers could also do with that kick as well. So I don't see it as a problem that there is a replacement there. There is always a number two. The only difference in this situation is that your number two has been a number one. Do you see what I mean? So that to me brings more experience to the roster. It's not giving a oh crap, because we've seen it from United before, right? When managers have had to go, we've had these weird interims that are like, oh yeah, you're going to be United manager for 6 months and then we'll review it at the end of the season. Like, what is that? Like, yeah. So we know that if we've got a number two that's there who understands being a number one, I think that can only bring you more experience. So for me, it's a positive. But I like working in those kind of situations. Like, Ten Hag's got his back. He's got to back himself in this. He's got to be saying, "All right, cool, Van Nistelrooy, but I'm the man here, innit? Like, I've got the experience. You're learning from me, if anything." Do you get what I'm saying?
Before I move, I'll conclude it on this on Ten Hag. His assistant was sacked. All the coaches around him were sacked, and I can just only imagine him going into the room saying, "Ten Hag, I got sacked," and he was like, "Oh, sorry to hear that, mate. I'm still standing.
But do you know what it is, though? His assistants got sacked. But he's the one that suggested this wasn't an Ineos appointment. Van Nistelrooy was a Ten Hag appointment. Yeah. And that to me shows his character, because he knows Van Nistelrooy's style of play, but he also knows Van Nistelrooy, the person, who is not the person who's just going to say yes all the time, who's going to be like, no, this is what we need to do, or this is what we need to do in the attacking line. So I think that kind of shows his character. Strong characters pick opposing opinions, not just opinions who they're going to agree with all the time. So
ever since they said to him, your team has conceded more shots on goal than any relegated side, what would you put that down to? And he said, we're a very dynamic team. I said this guy
backed his own horse.
This guy is the horse.
You got to give it to him. You got to give it to him. He does not give two. He does not give a monkeys.
He's a lawyer. He's a politician.
He's a politician.
There's got to be a TV series on this guy. There's got to be. Speaking of backing yourself, Ange Postecoglou.
Mate, Mr. Mate.
Mr. Mate.
Everyone's mate.
That's copycat.
Ange Postecoglou. I always get the feeling, Ash, and I've had these debates. I don't know why. I'm maybe from as a Newcastle fan, and I think even sometimes when I do it with Spurs fans, they think I'm trying to sabotage. I'm trying to sabotage Spurs. I got these, and I always I always tell you my references of Tottenham, especially, is when you had Pochettino and you had those. You just incredibly ferocious team with Dele Alli, with your defense, with all those guys and everything else. And I just feel like when I see Ange and what he's trying to do is make a return to that sort of mentality, obviously in his own Ange way. And I'm very surprised that the Spurs fans aren't reminiscent that. How would you kind of describe Ange, and what do you think his task and his main battles are this season coming?
I think it's a case of a bit like Newcastle. I see a lot of similarities in terms of what his ideologies are, his principles, his foundations. Eddie Howe was about being aggressive, being intense, winning the ball high up the pitch. And then when you lose it, recovery runs. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I felt with Newcastle, a lot of teams didn't show them a lot of respect. And that's the reason why you had such a great season under Eddie Howe. In your second season, I think you did really well and you got into the top four. Just along with Man United. I remember you two were going at it. At one point, I was like, oh yeah, Newcastle are going to finish above United. Do you know what I mean? So I think with Ange, no one didn't really know about him, first of all. And then second of all, I think there was a lack of respect because what he did in Scotland and in Japan, people were like, Ange, you can't do that over here. Do you know what I mean? What's he going to do here? That kind of attitude. But first 10 games, we were like completely the opposite. From we were being a low block team to a front footed team. And the way we pressed was relentless. And he always says, we don't stop, mate. We don't stop. That was Ange essentially. You know what I mean? Some fans not Spurs fans, but rival fans. I remember when I first started the rival show, they're like, this style of football is chaotic. It's not going to last. It's too gun-ho. It looks like a basketball game. I looked at it, and I was looking for Liverpool fans because I was like, this.
I was going to say that's a Spurs top you're wearing, isn't it?
What? I beg your pardon?
I was going to say that's a Spurs. It looked like a basketball game. I was going to say that's a Spurs.
Lakers still. Games with them, man. But yeah. But yeah. No, I should have been wearing Antonio Spurs. I know. I get it. But yeah, basically, I think once the teams respected Spurs a lot, they started to say, okay, they're no longer low blocking. We can't like come onto them because we were underneath like Conte. The lower teams, they would come onto us and try to attack them. We used to sit back. Now all of a sudden, they know if they come at us, we're going to rip them to pieces. So then slowly teams started sitting back. And then I think that's where the issue started to happen with a lot of Spurs fans where they started playing this horseshoe football in possession and we just look toothless in front of goal. Looking at our front line, if I'm comparing it to Liverpool, night and day, Liverpool have a far more superior attacking options compared to what Spurs do. Like we've got Brennan Johnson, who's not the most prolific goal scorer as a wide forward. You've got Kulusevski as well. He's very inconsistent, hit and miss. On the left, you've got Timo Werner. Some people say Son is slowing down. Then you've lost Kane. Do you know what I mean? Richarlison's been out for a lot of the season. So these are like the things that where Spurs fans were started to grow impatient. And then on top of it, it was the inversion of the two fullbacks that it's either going to look genius or and the fact that we kept getting exploited down the sides, similar to what Newcastle experienced. People started critiquing that. And then on top of that, people started critiquing Basuma, saying he's too high up as a number 6. The number 6 is meant to sit. And I looked at Bruno Guimaraes and I was going to ask you, like, what are your thoughts on a 6? Because Bruno Guimaraes, Bruno, I see him like as one of your most creative players. He gets involved not just in the build-up, but in the attacking play. He bombs forward a lot. And when I look at your centre-backs, you do lack pace. Do you know what I mean? So that, for me, Newcastle just got extremely tired. They ran out of legs. And that's the reason why, you know, with the Champions League and the league form, like we played a tired you when we were at home. Do you know what I mean? It was different. When you got knocked out of the competition, we faced you again. We got slapped. You know what I mean? We got slapped 4. It was a quick 4. So I think that's the reason why Spurs fans have lost patience because you were the start of it. It was like Newcastle, then we played Arsenal, then we played Chelsea, then we played Liverpool, and it was the same thing, game after game, game after game. We played the high line. You know what I'm saying? So with that being happening, everyone's getting upset, frustrated that we're doing the same thing and Ange is not adapting. It's clear as day what we need to do. We need to maybe not have both fullbacks inverted, maybe let one of them drop or make your number 6 tuck in between the two centre backs to form a back 3. And that's the reason why loads of fans are like, I don't understand this Ange ball anymore. When we were winning, it was all dandy. Do you know what I'm saying?
Shit was all good just a week ago.
To me nicely, bro. But yeah, man, listen, this is basically where we're at because we're in pre-season now, and it's pretty much the same thing. We played Bayern Munich, and it looks like again we're conceding goal after goal after goal. We lost 2 games, 3 games, and conceded like I think 7, 8 goals. So
do you think that Ange has got the signings that you needed this summer so far? Because there's obviously 3 weeks still to go with the transfer window.
Yes. So this is the biggest debate at the moment. Lots of people want a 6. They don't think the players we have are a 6. Generally, they think they're all 8s. We've got too many 8s, meaning we've got too many players that do similar things, box-to-box types, or players that technically they're okay, but like they're just very similar in what they do in terms of the attributes, the characteristics, the style of play. But we don't have a specific that can protect Mickey van der Ven and Romero, or just the back four in general. And when we lose the ball, it looks like we're all sprinting with our backs to goal, like backs to the opposition's goal. We're all trying to run back on sides into their positions every time we lose the ball. So I'm sure you guys can relate to that type of football as well. Do you know what I mean?
Well, our players weren't sprinting exactly.
Well, this is it, and this is the thing. But this is another thing we're saying. Like, for example, Basuma playing the 6. We'll probably talk about him later. But
yeah,
he looks like when he's running backwards, he looks lethargic. He looks slow. Like he doesn't bothered. Like when he's trying to get back into position. Then we had the problem with our fullbacks because Udogie got injured, Mickey van der Ven got injured, and then Romero was always some type of suspension. Basuma was suspended twice as well with 2 red cards. So the squad depth was an issue. But answering your question, we bought a number 9, which we needed to do for a long time because Son is not good at hold-up play, and we constantly lose that ball, and then we get countered on. Teams will transition us fast. Richarlison's been out, and even he's not really good at holding up play in that midfield or the attacking third. He's not really the guy to go direct into. And then when you look at our forwards, either side, left forward, right forward, they don't really contribute a lot of goals into the team. Maddison, a lot of people just fell out of love with him, saying he's not turning up. He's just not doing what he was doing in the first 10 games. And all of a sudden, the best midfield looks like the worst midfield ever, and the front 3 aren't scoring goals. And you've got your fullback, who are top defenders, in the midfield, in the way of James Maddison. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Scholes said it himself. If I'm a midfielder, I'm playing that 10, I don't want to see my fullback anywhere near me. I want to be hitting the balls. Do you know what I'm saying? I want to be I want to be hitting diagonals, balls over the top. I want to see them in my face. What's going on here? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that has been the big. But yeah, I think it's debatable because some people say Gray is being backed because he can play the number 6. But the caveat is 18. He's done it in the Championship. He hasn't done it in the Premier League. And so far, from what I've seen in pre-season, we've played him as a centre-back. We have played him in the 6, and we've also played him in the right-back. Now, for me, if I'm being honest, I thought he looked more comfortable either at the centre-back or in the right-back position. In the 6, I felt he needs to be blooded in a bit slower. He needs a bit more time, to put it politely.
Yeah, the 6 is a key position where
it's very hard because everything goes through you. Positionally, you need to be switched on to know when to intercept, defend. It's a different speed, level of thought, physicality. There's so much that goes into it. You're the one that makes it tick. You can slow the tempo down, speed it up, etc. So it's a big responsibility on an 18-year-old shoulders. So has Ange been backed? Meh is what I'll say. I'll say meh. Solanke, some people rave about. The thing I have is, can he make the step up? Because some people look good at a certain level.
Glass ceiling players.
Yeah, Bournemouth could be his level. I don't know. That's where my question marks are at. But I still don't want to rely on solely an aging Son and a number 9 just to get all my goals. I need goals from all over the pitch. And then defensively, as I said before, when your doggy dropped off, you've got Emerson Royale going in there. Ben Davies going in there. Ben Davies still at the club. Emerson Royale's just officially gone, by the way. And we said goodbye. He's at AC Milan. Kind of failed upwards. But yeah, I just... if I'm being honest, I just think we need cover in that left back area. And tactically, we need to change something in games a little bit quicker, in my opinion, if we are to survive this hectic season. And I think everyone's improved, by the way.
It's really interesting. I'm going to speak about how, and kind of in relation to Postecoglou and a little bit of Ten Hag as well, if that will make sense. I think, because like you said, Ash, I think very similarly to Postecoglou, especially very front-footed, very high-pressing teams and whatnot. And so, but Howe's been doing it in the Premier League a lot longer, and we're a little bit more used to, and obviously our process is a little bit further ahead. So we've dealt with the real highs, and we've dealt with the lows and the highs and the not so kind of in between, and now like we're looking to head elsewhere. And all I can say is from playing in that high pressing style, our eights are very, very important. And when we had Willock and Joe Linton, I've just seen him live, especially. There's certain intangibles that you can't always see on the TV that you see live, and you can't. What I saw live, and I appreciate it was Girona. No, who was it? It was Girona, yeah. Players are frightened of him. They'll even avoid passing into those channels because they don't want to get clotheslined. And so all that plays into how the game is played. He initiates the press, but he doesn't just do it without using his brain. It's very like when Hal talks about him being tactically aware. I didn't know what he meant until I saw it live. They push when he push, they press when he presses, and he knows when to press and how to press. Does that make sense? And even with his recovery runs, they make them, and they make sure that even if they don't get the ball, they get the man without, kind of being giving away fouls too much. But the whole point being is, as the match continues on, it wears down the opponents, if that makes sense. And so
is that Bruno you're talking about? Is that Bruno?
No, Joe Linton.
Oh, Joe Linton.
So Bruno's a deep lying playmaker for us. Yes, if you see his heat map, it's everywhere. And he is an athlete, but he's not as good an athlete as a Joe Linton in terms of his speed, in terms of his recovery runs, and all those type of things. So you need it for every Bruno, no matter how great he is with his back to goal, his passing and creativity. You need a monster of a Joe Linton or a Declan Rice next to a Jorginho or those type of players. And maybe Basuma needs a similar type next to him. I know he has Pape Matisar and those type of guys. I don't know what their chemistry is like. Like, so for instance, Joe Linton, maybe I'm taking it too far, but I believe this is true. Like Joe Linton and Bruno Gomes, they went to each other's weddings, like they're best friends. Like if you, and I just seen it live, if you touch one of Newcastle's players, you the opposite, you as sure as the day is long, Joe Linton's going to get you back within the next 5 minutes. One way or the other. Do you know what I'm saying? So all of that has an effect on how the game is being played on the pitch and what people do. Do you know what I mean? So maybe it's a bit of that. And obviously when we do have as slower defenders as we did have, it makes a huge difference. Hence Mark Gahey's signings and those guys that have got pace and stuff like that we're looking for. Eddie Howe, and I'll put it to you guys and what your thoughts are, because the common thing I used to get about Eddie Howe, and I'll give him 2 minutes before I move on, is just to say, people would always say, oh, he's the Mark Hughes of Newcastle, i.e. he's the first manager that they hired. He's just a stepping stone before the next guy. But I always said to people, the only reason you're saying that he's Mark Hughes is because he's got blonde hair and blue eyes. They've got a totally different football philosophy. They come from a totally different footballing background in terms of how successful Mark Hughes was to what Eddie Howe became a manager at 35 years of age, taking over a broken down Bournemouth. He became their everything, their manager, sporting director, and everything, to develop the football philosophy, new scouting team. He built all of that and obviously led them to the Premier League. He was playing in the Premier League with the players he had in League Two. Mark Hughes wasn't doing that. So it's a different type of a manager altogether. And so he's obviously, he places a big emphasis, and I think maybe this is where a similarity to Ange is, a big emphasis on team spirit. And I know when people hear that stuff, they think it's all kind of abstract and wishy-washy. But if you're running up and down together for 90, 95 plus 5 minutes, and you're not doing it as a unit, you're not doing it as a team, and people are making mistakes and maybe things aren't going your way, you better have a team spirit, because if that breaks down in the match, it can go look real ugly. I mean, if I ask you guys in terms of like what your kind of perception of, maybe has it changed from when he first took over on Newcastle to what it is now, or have you kind of has it kind of remained always consistent? Like, what's your kind of overall general views of Mr. Howe?
Yeah, so I like Eddie Howe a lot. I think he doesn't get the respect he deserves, and I think it's a shame for Newcastle that he's probably gonna go to England at some stage. Yeah, right? But I think he's very tactically aware. I think he's the buys have been really good over the last couple of years. And Joe Linton, look, when we first saw Joe Linton, everyone was like, oh, this guy's wash. And Eddie Howe managed to find a place for him in the team where he can bring out the best of him. And he looks like an insane player. Same thing with Bruno. When I first saw Bruno, I wasn't sure about this guy. And now, like, yeah, like you're right. You don't want to be within 10 yards of that guy because he's an absolute monster. And those two together are ridiculous. So I like Eddie Howe a lot. I think Newcastle was very unfortunate. Probably the only team with a bit less luck than United yesterday, last year when it came to injuries. But what I like about Eddie Howe, and where I think he's a little bit more tactically astute than Ange, but I think Ange will get this.
Yeah.
In the Premier League, unless you are City, you cannot go the entire league playing one way. You cannot do it. If you do it, you will get found out. And if you have injuries and you don't change, you will get found out. And I think Ten Hag found that out last year. I think Ange found that out last year. But what I like about Eddie Howe is he's got the ability to play different ways. He's had to have the ability to play different ways. So I like him a lot. I think you'll see a different Newcastle this year. I think people are not thinking of Newcastle when we're talking about top four pushes. But I think that's a mistake. I think there's gonna be four teams fighting for 4 or 5 teams fighting for 2 places. So yeah, I really like it. I think he's a brilliant manager. And I can't wait to see him in the England jersey.
Great ending, bro.
Great ending. So go on, Ash.
The button. All right, cool. Eddie Howe, for me, I love it because I like the way how he kind of went out of football for a bit.
Yeah.
He kind of ghost. And it's almost like, have you ever seen Star Wars where like the Jedi goes into training? Do you know what I mean? They go into the wilderness. Luke goes and finds Yoda. And I think in this case for Eddie Howe, Yoda was Simeone. And he went over and he watched Atletico. And, you know, Howe comes from the school of thought of, you know, possession-based football. And I remember watching Bournemouth being so impressed when they got promoted. Like, wow, look at the style of football. So brave with it. This is amazing. Do you know what I mean? But obviously, the second or third season, they got relegated. And then he went away and he just, you know what? I'm going to humble myself. I'm going to learn a different way. Obviously, I like stylistically to be more imposing and play triangles, etc. But yeah, I really admire that about him. And I think he learned a lot from Simeone and he brought some of those principles into his coaching today. And I think I have to agree with Yomes in terms of being flexible, being adaptable tactically. I think he's got that. And I think he's crafted the best out of the players that he has in his actual squad. So if you look at Murphy, plays like Murphy, I was like, dude, yeah. Then you look at Willock from Arsenal, he looked like a project. You managed to get the best out of him.
Almiron as well. There was one time I was like, they were saying, what was they calling Diego Almiron? Do you know what I'm saying? Like he was on fire. By the way, he looks like he might be subject of a bid from America. But
So but
he clearly saw and had a clear philosophy and an identity that all the players bought into. And it seems like they all want to play for him, run through a brick wall for him. And a lot of the time, I remember we was linked with Anthony Gordon and the whole fan base lost their mind. Anthony Gordon from Everton, 60 million. I obviously watch football, so I knew his attributes. I was like, I get it. He wants someone that's going to be aggressive, off the ball, on the ball, hardworking, tenacious, intensity, energy, young, got legs. That's what he's going to give you. Do you know what I mean? But I didn't know Gordon had that level of consistency in terms of finishing. Because obviously I seen him score for Everton, and the fans were rioting when they were going to sell him. They were on the streets. Oh, you can't let one of our players go, and they're rioting against the board. And then obviously he went to you guys. I remember. I think he was going to go somewhere else. I can't remember, but he ended up at Newcastle anyway. And yeah, he's gone from stride to stride, strength to strength. I think he's been a great addition to your squad. And Isaac as well. Hadn't scored many goals in La Liga. But again, great scouting from not just Howell, but your actual team. Dan Ashworth, them guys.
Dan Ashworth.
Oh, whoops.
You're done doing your scouting, by the way. Just to let you know.
My bad. But they're in the recruitment process, etc. But anyway, I digress. I just thought that for me, Newcastle, if Spurs had Newcastle's front three, because I rated Barnes as well. He was another player I was looking at like, oh, please, Spurs go for Barnes, please. And then you lot got him. And that's why I was worried for Maddison, because I thought, oh, you lot are going to get everyone. However, I just feel like Newcastle just ran out of steam because they were in Europe. It was a new competition, and losing to Nali didn't help. I thought he was a massive miss, because I thought your first 3 games, you guys
it was looking scary.
I was nervous. I was like, oh, everyone was talking about Villa. Look at Villa. Look at Then I moved to Villa. I said, God, and then I went smoke. Not about players. They're kind of angry, innit?
Yeah. It was looking crazy.
Yeah,
and Magpie would take your chicken burger, bro.
It was looking crazy. It's looking crazy.
Brother, I was nervous. I said, Brighton, they're going to give him trouble. No, Newcastle moving to Brighton. I said, oh, come on. It's going to be a long day for the season. So now you're back to your original 1 game a week. Am I right?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So back to your 1 game a week, which got you the top 4 in the first place. I'm a bit nervous. I can't lie. More energy, Newcastle, and obviously how he relies on high energy, high pressing, winning the ball back, recovery runs, and he's got the players to do that. I just feel like you keep Gordon, Barnes is there. You just add a right winger, which I think he will do.
Yeah. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going a bit too far ahead, so I want to stop talking.
Let's No, just so guys in the chat, thank you all for that are here as well. Before I move on, just to say, got one question, well, one kind of side note for Yoms. It's from Worbo Jog. He said, side note for Yoms, Subamendi rejected Liverpool apparently. So I don't know. They just want to let you know. I don't know if that means Subamendi's going to Manchester United. That'd be crazy.
But I mean, but I think he rejected Liverpool because he doesn't want to leave. He's rejected many clubs in the past. Many clubs have come in for someone else.
I don't know. Apparently, he's got to pay his own release clause. I'm like,
yeah, it's all crazy.
That's normal though. That's normal in Spain.
What I don't understand of Liverpool's that
jailhouse is there.
What I understand of Liverpool, look, every club gets rejected. Like all of our, people don't know because of the news coverers, our PR teams cover it up. All of our teams, even in the summer transfer window, have been rejected by players. Like it happens like all the time. My problem with Liverpool is, why is it always so public? Like what? Yeah. Like it's just Ornstein dropped a bomb. Fabrizio Romano, Subamendi's coming. And then it's crazy.
It's mad because players are like if you make a proposal and the player says, I'll think about it, that's not the player. That's not the player. My guy's been thinking about it for a week. Do you know how long a week is in a transfer window?
Bro, like
when there's been do you get what I'm saying? When there's been a Euros and when there's been a short break as it is, and you're wasting my time on a whole week.
Listen, and if any tips for any young men out there, if you ask a lady out for a coffee and she says maybe and she doesn't give you an answer within a week, it's a no. Like it's a no, guys, right? Just move. Just move on.
Just move on.
But speaking of moving on, obviously we just talked about our managers, our philosophies, and their kind of managerial philosophies, their aims for the all they've been through, and their aims for this season. I wanted to kind of put the next two slides together in order to answer the next question, or the last kind of part of the show, which was looking at obviously the squads themselves, strengths and weaknesses really quickly, as well as obviously who we're going to recruit. But we're going to, in order to look forward, we're going to look a little bit back, and I'm going to try and breeze through these next 5 minutes or so. So I've got the stats, and I don't know if folks can see it. I try to make it as, can you guys see it? I hope, like, it's kind of small, but well, I've got Tottenham at the top left, Newcastle top right, and Man United at the bottom. These are the overall stats for the season. I'm not going to go into the intricate details. I'm going to focus on the real kind of big ones, you know, points, score, goals. So, for instance, wins. Obviously, Tottenham got 20 wins. Both Man United and Newcastle finished on equal points. Have obviously got 18 wins, and both share the same amount of losses, 14 losses, which is insane. Annoyingly enough, even though as much as we've all kind of laughed at, or people have laughed at in general about Man United's defense in terms of goals conceded, they conceded less goals than both Newcastle and Tottenham. Very interestingly, without having
we had Captain Johnny Evans. Guy's a young protege.
Exactly, and no midfield. So that's incredible. But in terms of goals scored, obviously Tottenham have got 74 assists, and this is where Man United really kind of stumbled. Obviously 57, Newcastle 85 in your face. 85 goals. And Newcastle managed to keep 10 clean sheets. Tottenham 7 and Man United 9. I'm gonna before I ask you guys a question, and I've flicked it onto the next screen. But in terms of what you guys just saw from the stats, and give me your kind of views briefly on what was it you liked about? What was your highlight of last season in terms of the team in general, and what was like the low light that you're kind of hoping will be fixed coming to this season? Yoms.
Look, I'm scratching around here because I'm trying not to mention the FA Cup, because we've obviously just seen league stats, right? So yeah. I am scratching. Like, when I say scratching, I am scratching around for positives in United's league last year. I did think that there was some games that we showed a certain level of resilience. I felt that really and truly, though, we just lacked the bodies. The bodies weren't there, and I think the mentality, we have some real weak mentalities. So obviously, I'm going to start with the lowlights, right? We lacked the mentality. Some of our players lacked the mentality that you need. So I don't like to heap too much on Marcus Rashford, but he was our talisman. He was the guy that we gave the big contracts to. He was the guy that was supposed to be like, all right, you're the poster boy now. You're coming off a 20-something, 25 goal, 26 goal season. You carry us forward now. You push us up so we can be competing. And he just didn't turn up. I don't know what's happened. Confidence is shot. And I'm hoping that Xerxes signing and people like Van Nistelrooy can help him recover his form. So yeah, the lows was just the mentality of some of the players, the number of injuries. I think Ten Hag didn't get key decisions right in some of the substitutions, the timings of substitutions. Only God knows why Johnny Evans is still there. I mean, he was a decent defender for us, but he was supposed to have 2 training sessions whilst we was on tour pre-season. Mm-hmm. And my man ended up with, he's still there. My man's ended up with 2-year contracts. It's wild. So I think everything that could possibly go wrong for us in the league last year went wrong. And in honesty, highlights, it's really difficult. I can't really, the overhead kick by Garnacho. Here are some highlights. Garnacho was really good in terms of his directness and the way at times he didn't care who he was playing against. He's running at you. He's trying to make things happen. I think he's a little bit greedy in the box, but that can be worked on. Kobbie Mainoo is a diamond in the rough. Everybody that was not a United fan was hoping and praying that his next game would be his last good one. And look, my guy managed to force his way into the England squad and held his own amongst people who are being sold for 100 million. So I thought those two were really, really good. Dano pushed on a bit. And I think he is becoming a really good right back. He had a good season. The jury's still out for me. But that's because I compare him to the very best. And I don't think he's anywhere near there yet.
Yeah.
But I think there was, I'm scratching at surfaces because I'm looking at individual players to be the highlight of a season, and you should never do that in a team sport.
Yeah.
But yeah, the youth coming through was probably the highlight for me.
Okay, well, I'm going to be talking about your youth, and when we're talking about the squads a little bit more, because putting it together, I was quite impressed. For you, Ash, Tottenham obviously started like a freight train, ended a little bit not like a freight train, but still some impressive stats. Obviously, you got more possession than all of us in terms of our teams and whatnot. Shot accuracy is pretty good. More wins than us as well. Less losses. What was it for you? How would you summarize Tottenham in the season just gone by? And what are you hoping will change into the season going forward?
Basically, a reality check. Because we were all on cloud nine. Well, I say we all, but a lot of the fans were generally happy. I went to the stadium and it was like a carnival, bro. Like, it was mad. I haven't heard the stadium like that before. Like, singing songs, like Andrew was saying, it's like a nightclub, mate. It's like a nightclub. And then
you have a nightclub in there, don't you? That's anyway.
Beyonce,
Bro, like, it was mad. Like, literally after games, people weren't even like going home. They were hanging about.
Yeah.
Like, fans just drinking afterwards, eating up food, and it was good times, man. It was like, yeah, man, like one of the movies, bro.
So what are you saying? Vibes of C.
Vibes of C.
Free vibes.
Those vibes, free vibes. Free vibes is free now, so yeah. But anyway, yeah. I just thought, yeah, like the way we crashed wallop bang back into reality was it was so harsh.
Yeah.
And it's just left some of the fans now going into the season a little bit skeptical, a bit downbeat, a bit downhearted. And I think for me, with Ange, I appreciate that he is ambitious, but I just feel like the managing of expectations, I feel like he's overhyping. Like, he's saying, lads, I'm sick and tired of this top four talk. We're going for it. And so I'm like, no. I'm here for it. Like, I want to have trust. I want to be that fan that talks shit. You see what I'm saying? I want to be that egotistic kind of we're Spurs, we're about this life. But then when the signings are a little bit slower than, I get it. It's the economical climate at the moment, slowing things down, FFP, PSR, you've got to play by the rules now. We can no longer, but I was confused because I thought, we built the stadium, and the reason
your revenue's insane. I think that's
you man have dough.
Can I interject a little bit, Ash, and see what you think about this? I know because it sounds across to me what you're saying in terms of like Postecoglou saying, we're going for it, and you're like, like you said, slow down. I don't know if Jones could relate to this, but and I know it's a different time, but I think there's still some thing to relate to. You almost remember when, and I don't know how early this was in his tenure, when Ferguson took over Man United. And I think at that stage, I can't remember how many premierships he had. Was it 7 or something like that? but he said something along the lines of, "We're gonna knock Liverpool off their perch." Speaking of league titles, and he was about what? Man United were about what, 7, 8 league titles behind. There's this Scottish guy from Aberdeen saying, "We're gonna knock Liverpool off their perch." If I was, Yoms in those days or Ash in those days, I'll be saying maybe what you're saying is this guy is going a bit too far. Like, come on, like, what's going on? I'm not saying, is it, without saying overly cringy, do you know what I mean? Is he invoking that sort of spirit and just saying, let's go?
I remember Mourinho came and he was like, "I am the special one. I come to win things." Do you get what I'm saying? You have to have that about you. I think
errors
managers that win have that bullshit that's about them and that self-confidence.
I hear it. You need to have a bit of chest. You need to come into the dressing room with confidence and ambition, and people need to be eating that up. The board need to eat that up. The fans need to eat it up. But then we need to see that as well on the pitch. And it just felt like we had been found out a little piece. Do you know what I mean? People do say, like, Ange doesn't adapt. I disagree. I think he does adapt. But unless you're watching the game closely, it could go over your head. Do you know what I mean? Our first half performances, sometimes we flatter to deceive. And in the second half, it's like he gets into them, and then we come out all guns blazing, and then we get the job done. So at least we show a bit of heart, a bit of spirit, and a bit about us to kind of get those games back, from losing positions or drawing or whatever it is. We kind of get over that hill. But yeah, I hear what you're saying, you guys, about like having ambition, but I just need to see that with the signings we're making, because I felt like the right wing area, at least Son's on the left. Now we've got Slanky, through the middle. It's looking better. But I'm just saying, for me, I needed a goal threat like a Newcastle or a Liverpool or, a Chelsea, teams that are in amongst us. Their front three, they kind of scare me. When I look at Spurs' front three, I'm like, really? You know what I'm trying to say? I'm not really convinced that we're going to go into teams that, even though like the stats say different, like we've got more goals than both of you guys.
No. Just
I just feel like Ange Ball is, we will score more than you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A bit like early Klopp days. Klopp was super rock and roll and aggressive, and I feel like he's just picking up that mantle and said, "Look, I'm taking over. I'm the next one to do it." I think a lot of Spurs fans would prefer if we were set up defensively a bit more pragmatically, meaning high line, not super high, maybe drop back maybe 5 or 10 yards, or we're going to change 2 at the back and the rest defense to 3 at the back. So maybe one of the fullbacks pushes high up and one sits back, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And I think the issue that Spurs faced was you relied a lot on a super fasty guy.
Hey, Mickey, you're so fun.
You like literally relied on his pace to get you. And that's fine, right? That's why you buy pacey centre backs. So that's not a problem. That's the tactic. I think in the summer, I was expecting you guys to go and get another one of those defenders that can get you out of trouble when you need to, but also a defender that can hold on to and carry the ball. I was super when United, when we couldn't get Tadibo from Nice because FIFA changed the rules, so you can't buy from a parent club, which makes no sense.
How do you know what it feels like now?
It's absolutely stupid. It's the most stupid rule in the world.
When they create rules just on the cuff like that, I know it's crazy, isn't it?
No, I'm not for real though. For real, I feel your pain on that. Because it's mad. Because it's I love it. So West Ham are allowed to pay, I don't know, say the price is 25 million for a player, but United are not allowed to pay the same for that same player. Do you see what I mean? So it's weird. I think a signing like that would have been really good for Spurs, because that gives you the ability to continue playing the way Ange likes to play, even when you have an injury or two. Do you see what I mean? And I think once you guys got those injuries and suspensions, the game plan didn't change in terms of how high the line was. The line didn't then drop back to accommodate and say, right, we don't have that pace anymore where teams are running in behind and those kind of things. So it'll be interesting to see what Ange does this year, because I do think he needs to learn from that and say, right, cool, we can continue playing this high line against certain teams, but when you've got that run that you just mentioned with Liverpool's, the Newcastle's and that, you try playing that high line with centre backs that can't dig you out of trouble, you're going to get spanked.
But even with the centre backs we did have, I know that Isak and Van der Ven is not going to happen every game, but it's an example of, of where even when you do have Van der Ven, he's not impregnable. Like he's not like he's got issues. Not issues.
I think what needs to happen is the players that are on the pitch, they need to be a bit more proactive and know that teams want to like hit the channels, do switches of play, balls over the top. And so therefore they need to be a bit closer to like maybe your centre backs, study the game a bit more. Like, let's study maybe, Dan. Has Dan Burn got a good long ball on him? Maybe we press him a bit more aggressively. Is it Bruno Guimaraes? Is he going to be the one that switches to play? Maybe we get one of our midfielders a bit closer to him to stop that from happening. And I felt like sometimes when we're high up the pitch, no one's got that in the back of their minds. What if we lose it? And I think that's why a lot of fans wanted the number 6, someone that's a bit more defensively minded or tactically on the pitch, like a second coach. But
that's why I think because he's so offensive, and I'm going to move on. But I think he'd rather switch a Maddison for a Conor Gallagher rather than the 6, because a Conor Gallagher does close down a Bruno, does close down a Burn. Yes, Maddison not so much so, and he's a bit too dainty. Like it doesn't look like he wants to close down. Yeah, so because he's so front-footed in his philosophy, and I think he's looking for that number 8 that's going to be a little bit more aggressive with it. So
Joe Linton.
He wants a Joe Linton or Tonali. Even better.
Everyone wants a Joe Linton.
You'll be surprised, John. Like everyone's like, "Oh, he looks like he doesn't play football." I'll tell you what, though, there's half of the Premier League that are scared to play on the left side of the field because of him. Wouldn't you like to have that problem? Because if half the team, and guess who's on the left side of our field? Anthony Gordon. So you wonder why he's picking up the space that he's picking up sometimes, right? While we're able to counter press teams, the goal against Liverpool, for instance, the goal was scored just yesterday. How did these things don't just happen by accident, So anyway, I'm gonna move on swiftly. I think I've got you guys for another 20 minutes or so, I think. Right, so just before we start speaking about our teams, I wanted to use, I don't know if you guys can see, I wonder if this is too small, but this is essentially the kind of shows the departures that we've had from all of our teams so far and the incomings. And so where we're at the moment, so you guys, it looks like obviously from Tottenham's point of view, you guys have already spent 119 million in the summer transfer window, which includes Archie Gray, Lucas Bergvall, Min Yok Yang, Alfie Devine, and Alfie Devine's an academy player, I think. And Dominic, he is. And Dominic Solanke, and obviously you've got rid of a few players like Højbjerg, Brian Gill, Eric Dyer, Joe Rodon, and Ryan Sessegnon. So, but
Emerson Royale as well.
And obviously last minute, yes. Emerson Royale, what was it, 20 million or something?
15 million euros. Let me double check that.
15 million euros. So, I mean, that makes your incomings from 11 million to about 25, 26 million, which is a little bit better. So, just need to sell a little bit more and make things that way. Man United, so I mean, like in terms of backed, I think he is being backed, but I think the last 3 weeks, we're going to see a lot of that transfer activity. I'm really interested to see who Tottenham bring in. Man United, obviously, have brought in Lenny Euro, Xerxes, Collie is the academy player, Wheatley. So this is the part where I was going to say, Yoms, I'm impressed. You've got 3 academy players in Wheatley, Amas, and Collier who have come in. Yeah, and I think that if they turn out to be any good, you could save a potential 100 million just maybe from all of those positions. But you've got Lenny Euro and Xerxes. I feel like there's another player that you've. Oh yeah, obviously Mazraoui and De Ligt on a 50, 60 million.
Give me the light. Give me the light. Yeah.
You know, you've made about 42 million in sales so far, and you've spent 104 million, which is impressive. And I think you probably want to spend some more, and I'll get into that into a moment. But obviously for Newcastle, we've made about 76 million in sales, and I've only spent 68 million thus far. But obviously we know that we're trying to spend about 60 mil on Mark Gahey, so we're just waiting on that. So when I look at I don't know if folks can see, I'm going to expand. So I'm going to start with Tottenham and briefly talk about this. I can't do this on there. Let me take that off and show Tottenham. Can I show Tottenham? That's annoying. I can't show Tottenham. Let me put this. So there's an overall thing I want to see, and I know that a value or price isn't necessarily the kind of always the only indicator to show, you know, where your squad needs fixing or whatnot. But I think it's a good indicator. So if I look at Tottenham's squad, your goalkeeping department is valued at 37 million. Your defense department is 285 million. Your midfield is 246 million. And your attack is at 257 million. Your overall value is 826. So I mentioned all of that to say this. From speaking to you, Ash, I think you were saying that your attack is the one that you think needs the most rejigging.
Because I know, like I said, out of the three, we scored the most out of you guys, but I just felt like when you look at our forward line, if Son's not scoring the goals, then it's a bit of a concern, it's a bit of a worry where the goals are coming from, because we're not scoring a huge amount from midfield. And we've got Brennan Johnson, who's the right winger. He's not really scoring that many goals. He scored 5 goals last season from the right wing. Kulizeski is up and down and doesn't even play on the right wing anymore. He's being utilised in the midfield. And then on the left wing, we've had Timo Werner when Son isn't firing. Timo Werner only got 2 goals. So Ange Ball is we score more than you, essentially. And the players that I just mentioned, I forgot to mention Manos Solomon. He's still at our club as well. And he was injured for pretty much 2/3 of the season. And he's still at the club. So yeah, that front line doesn't, for me, I don't know about you guys, but it doesn't put fear into rivals. And I can't talk with chest about those type of front threes. And that's the reason why I was saying that's where I would like to. And also you can't do everything all at once. So if I'm going to take a hit, it'll be the front I was about to sneeze. Sorry, yeah. It'll be the front three. It'll be the front three where I would prioritize, and then following seasons, following windows, start to strengthen other areas. Are you on mute, by the way?
You're on mute.
Myself on mute on my own show. Brilliant. So yeah, because I also noticed that you guys played Kulusevski in your preseason games against Bayern Munich through the middle, which was interesting to see. So you probably do need another striker. It's interesting that Carvalho has been sold to Brentford. I think he might take up the right wing spot, and it might free up Brian Mbeumo, which is an interesting thing in there. I don't know if you'd want Brian Mbeumo. We'll talk about.
If you're still talking to me, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
I've said this on streams. I've said this in WhatsApp groups to many people. I just sent a picture. Some people are like, who's that? I'm not trying to be racist. No, that's Mbeumo from Brighton, man. Brighton, yeah. I mean, Brentford. Oops. But yeah, I would definitely. He's got 9 goals from last season. He was pretty much injured for half the season. And the following season before, he's got 9 goals. So I think if you're looking for a Premier League proven talent, he's 24, I think, or 25. He's still quite young, even though he looks like he's in his 40s. Probably a ringer, to be fair. But yeah, I would definitely take him. I think he adds that dynamism, that directness in front of goal that you need, that composure. He looks like he's more of a wide forward than a winger. Lots of people talk about, oh, we need a winger. We need wide forwards. I prefer to have a different profile to Brennan Johnson, who's seen as a winger. I'd rather have a wide forward, someone that can hit the back of the net. Something I thought Johnson was going to be, funny enough, but his first season didn't live up to that expectation. And who knows, this season he might improve on that. He could prove me wrong. But his ability to beat a player down the flanks is quite limited. I looked at his stats a bit closer.
It is.
34% in terms of successful dribbles and take-ons.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me, if we're going to play in the wing, it's got to be closer to the 50 mark.
Well, I think he prefers to go inside and pick up space in the pocket. So either a give and go with someone or get into the box and shoot.
Because when he was with Morgan,
he's like a Harvey Barnes-ish type of thing.
Yeah, when he was with Morgan Gibbs-White, that's what it was. It was literally a give and go. But again, Papa Matasar, slightly different in terms of creativity, in terms of like link-up play. That's not really his bag, if that makes sense. He's more of a box-to-box type of midfielder, Papasar, in my opinion. And so I don't think he's got that. That's not his style, basically. Like a Morgan Gibbs-White will completely change the way we distribute.
100%. He's
Brennan
available
Johnson.
50 million. We'll see.
I know that. I've done a stream on it. So definitely know. But yeah, I'm not in charge.
We need to start listening to you, Ash.
I'm not in charge.
Yoms, Man United, and we'll go into the squads in a moment. Man United, your attack is at 300 million, worth more than any of our attacks. Midfield at 200, midfield at 230 million, and your defense is at 240. Your goalkeeping is at 45 million, making an overall squad valuation at 818, just about 8 million less than Tottenham's. About 150 or so, probably, about 150 more than ours. This would indicate to me that your attack is pretty good from a pricing, well, at least if someone was looking at it, but possibly your defense and your midfield are probably areas to improve. Now, you have obviously brought in De Ligt and Mazraoui, so we won't go into that. You've obviously, if you put that combined pricing together, that would make that 240 into 300 million, which is of the same price value as your attack. Just from a pricing point of view, it might be an indicator of a slight rebalancing of quality, hopefully as well, for Man United. Does it leave your midfield then? Would you say that your midfield is maybe you want to see something done there before the season starts?
We have to.
Okay.
We just have to. We have to get legs. I mean, Kobe is a great player, strong word, a good player on the ball. He picks up the ball well, distributes it well, finds pockets. He's not the guy that's going to close down spaces, win the ball, and distribute it.
Yeah.
Casemiro.
That's why him and Declan Rice for England were very good. Sorry,
it is because Declan Rice provided the mobility, and Kobe provides that kind of composure and under pressure and a pass and finds a pass, and they complemented each other really well. And that's what we need. That's why Ugarte is a really, really big target for us. I'm hearing about Sanderberg. I don't believe that's going to be our number one. I think that's going to be somebody who we want to bring in if Casemiro leaves.
Oh, Casemiro, okay.
Yeah, so, but look, United have been so bad. Those numbers don't surprise me. United have been so bad with A, overpaying, and B, not being able to sell. I mean, we can't sell Casemiro to Saudi Arabia. Like, that's how bad we are at selling and how unlucky we are. I mean, literally, the bubble burst. He could have gone in January if they wanted him, right? And they would have been paying a fee, and they would have taken 350K off the wage bill each week, right? So, look, United just get unlucky that the Saudi bubble is bursting in that midfield area just as we want to get rid of Casemiro.
Well,
But
if Mr. Radcliffe stopped talking about our owners, you might get the phone call that he wants. I just want to put it out there. But speaking of, so for Newcastle, obviously our squad is overall valued at 659, which is about 150 to 180 million less than Tottenham's and Man United's. Our attack is at 224. Our midfield is at 242, and our defense is at 168, and our goalkeeping is at 24 million. I'll just say before going into the teams, I think obviously we have made a number of changes in the goalkeeping department. Pope is still number one. He probably makes the bulk of that value, to be honest. And we was looking for number two, but I think we're looking at James Trafford. Defense, obviously, we've got in the Lloyd Kelly, who I think has been fantastic, especially seeing him live. And we've raised up Hall and Livramento are looking absolutely brilliant for us. I think Mark Gahey will be the final addition to kind of really raise the ceiling on our defense of what we're looking for. And I think if you can imagine the peak, I think if all goes well, how it's supposed to, the peak of our back line will be Hall, Botman, Gahey, and Livramento. That's not bad if it lives up to its expectation. It's about there's a lot of Chelsea 2.0 in that in terms of former academy players. And obviously, as folks know, we're looking for a right winger. Almiron can possibly go. And there's various conversations around Noni Madueke. Real faint rumours around Kulusevski, but Noni Madueke is certainly the loudest of that. So I think in terms of what Newcastle have managed to achieve, and like I said, our squad is 150 pounds less than your squad. I mean, we finished last season 5 points behind Tottenham, I think. And on level points with Man United, obviously we shared probably the same injuries as Man United. It kind of shows to me that Howe is making the best out of what he's got, really. And we're just looking for new additions. I'm going to move on to the final section. I'm going to start off with Yoms because I know he's got to leave soon. And that's looking at the actual teams themselves. While I do that, guys, what's you guys' thoughts in terms of who do you think, Ash, in terms of would be most suitable, and you can join us on this, in terms of our right-wing position? If I asked you, say Newcastle have a choice between Kulusevski and Noni Madueke, who would you think would be most suitable for Newcastle?
So it's a tough one. Madueke, I feel like he hasn't played a lot for Chelsea, but I think he's a young kid, he's got a lot of potential, high ceiling. I don't know if he's the right character for Newcastle, though. That's one thing I'd say. He has got a bit of an attitude thing going on. I remember when Gallagher, what was it? Not Gallagher. It was Palmer. Yeah. And he's all trying to grab it off, man, like school kids. Stay calm, bud. And like, yeah, I saw that. I was like, oh, I don't know, man. I don't know if Eddie Howe looks at that and thinks, yeah, I want that in my dressing room. Do you know what I mean?
I would say for me. Sorry, go on.
No, that's it. Go on. That's it.
I was going to say for me, there's two things in that. I think that's a managerial issue. I know you guys have heard me say in the rival show, I always think that Pochettino is the modern parent. In terms of like, he doesn't strike me as the guy that strikes fear in his squad, a healthy fear. I'm not talking about just insane fear. In terms of just having that discipline and whatnot.
You think Eddie Howe has a needle then? More than
100%.
To get the best out of Madueke.
Well, look what he did to Gordon. And Gordon's no shrinking violet. If you guys remember when he pushed Howe's hand off him after the Brentford game, and that was like the first 6 months. And look what happened a year later, so...
All of a sudden, he's been linked to Liverpool.
Yeah, all of a sudden, it's been linked to Liverpool. But we all know they get nosebleeds £40 million over. And so that's what it is. So, but also, in terms of the makeup of our team and our leadership structure compared to Chelsea, if you're Madueke and you're making, and Isak's about to take a penalty, and you're thinking, I'm going to go over there and tell him I'm taking the penalty, you just have to look to your left and see Joe Linton looking at you like, Yeah, that's not gonna happen, bruv. So you know it's a long day. Dan Burns behind you, and Bruno Gomes is there speaking some crazy Portuguese. You're not gonna do it, bro. So I think it's a Chelsea thing. I think what he did that is a symptom of what is happening at Chelsea.
He's with the man. I see a photo, bare man them, you know. Man's all doing up signs and that. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Hey, mixtape out next week, innit?
He's on that piff.com. I said, what are you doing, bro?
You know what?
He's the same, you know.
He's the same guy who played with Anthony Gordon in the under-21 Euros where they won it together. So there's ambition in the boy. But if you put that boy in the wrong environment, it's like a lot of Chelsea players have been. Because look, like I said, we've got Livramento and Hall, Mark Gahey possibly come in, Madueke possibly come in. I'm seeing a commonality here in terms of players saying there's something. Yeah, exactly. But also like, we're going into the right environment and all of them are improving. Anyway, I know that we've got
on tour, Jordy Shaw on tour. Popping them bottles, right?
Exactly. Yoms, I know you're tight for time, so I'm gonna. I've put up. Can you guys see the screen? Can you guys see?
Yeah.
So we've got the Man United squad here. I couldn't fit Jadon Sancho in, so just to let folks know, like, if in case you guys forgot, I forgot, I didn't. I couldn't fit him in, which could be a sign of a good thing in terms of a growing squad for Man United. We've mentioned the midfield, obviously from the previous screen as a place to improve. Obviously from Casemiro to McTominay, from Bruno to Mount, from Mainoo to Eriksen. There is a bit of a drop off in quality if you compare from, Rashford to Alejandro, from Xerxes to Højlund. Obviously, Anthony Diallo is his own. I think you need a right winger as well, but what's...
No. Wait. Slow down, Tito. Damn. Yo, Diallo. Ahmad Diallo deserves his chance.
Okay.
We need to start putting some respect on that boy's name because he is on bits. He is on bits, and I think that
good footwork, man. Good fast feet.
Yeah, good footwork, and the good thing about him is that he's not greedy. So the reason Rasmus Højlund could have had double the goals he had last season if our attackers, if Garnacho, if Rashford was not so damn greedy in the box. Like, this guy's picking up good spaces and you're not looking for I think there was some stat that he was the least passed to player in the opposition's half.
Yeah.
Out of all of the strikers in the top 10. That just shows you've got wide players that are not looking for your striker.
Yeah.
Right? So, but Diallo's not that. He gets in the box. His decision making in the box is brilliant. So he'll pass when he needs to pass. He'll shoot when he needs to shoot. He doesn't force things. So I think I'm really excited about seeing Diallo on that right flank. I actually think Garnacho likes playing off the left, but I actually think he's decent on the right as well. He can play right or left. So I think we might be seeing Rashford starting and Diallo and Garnacho sharing that kind of right space. And then also Garnacho and Rashford sharing that left space as well. But I think the reason why some of our buys have been really astute is Højlund and Xerxes are two completely different types of players.
Yeah.
So depending on how the game's progressing, depending on how you want to play, depending on your opposition's lineup, if you want that player that's going to run in behind, be in the 6-yard box, that's your Rasmus. If you want almost your 9.5, who's going to drop a little bit deeper, allow Bruno to make runs, and also bring in your Garnachos and Diallos, that's your Xerxes. So I think we have a little bit of dynamism that Ten Hag said that we had last year, but we're a little bit more dynamic with the players that we have now. And I'm actually quite excited to see. I mean, even if you look at the Charity Shield, right? Like, we played Man City. We lost on penalties. We conceded a goal in the last minute, but we should have been out of sight in that game. If Rashford had his scoring boots on, he gets 2 or 3 goals in that. We go
And to
3-4.
To your credit, I heard that I didn't see the game, but I heard that this is the least amount of shots you conceded to Man City in the last 9 seasons as well.
Yeah, I mean, Onana made no saves.
Wow.
So, I mean, and on the good side of no saves, not like on the bad side of no saves that we've seen in the past sometimes.
Apart from the one that went in. But
yeah, I mean, you see what I mean? But there was no shots they had until they scored. They had no shots on target. I know they hit the post. But we restricted their ability to get in behind. And look, you know, they didn't have De Bruyne playing. They was missing a lot of players. We was missing a few players as well. So you can't really read too much into it. But I was impressed. And so I'm looking forward to it. I think we've got a good. I mean, if we can just get that Casemiro out of the door and bring in Ugarte, I think that will be a pretty decent team with some decent players on the bench also.
What's your thoughts on Man United? What you see, Ash, in terms of the team strengths, weaknesses, and after you finish that, before I let Yoms go, I'm going to get his predictions on points predictions for Man United, Tottenham, and Newcastle. And as folks know, I'll ask all the guys that came on in the previous shows at the end of the transfer window for any kind of a revised prediction as well, because I know it's a bit unfair now, because imagine, you know, Man United could buy Ugarte, can buy maybe Zubamendi, that changes point predictions totally for folks. So, but I would love to get some predictions now. I mean, so Ash, what's your thoughts on Man United squad and what you see?
I think they've recruited well individually. We've got players that, you know, can win them games. They needed desperately midfielders, and I feel like I think Sander Berg might be a better suit than Ugarte. I'll be totally honest. I think Ugarte is more an 8 than a 6. I think Sander Berg, watching him at Burnley, I saw a few performances where he played against Liverpool, and he's able to take it off the centre back, the full back, and progress the ball forwards. I think defensively as well, he's able to win duels high up, and recovery runs a little bit better than Ugarte. Ugarte is good winning the ball high up, but I just see that more as a Joe Linton kind of skill set, if that makes sense. So if you want someone to win the ball high up, he's your guy. Like, he's super aggressive. He's almost like a Paulinho, but higher up the pitch. In terms of like progressive passing, though, I don't think he's a 6 in that sense, where he can sit back and pass through the lines and stuff like that. I don't think you get that with Ugarte. But people sleep on his ball carrying. I think his ball carrying is quite good. I think he's a good ball carrier. But yeah, that's just all hypotheticals. But I think that does improve United's squad. I think they could get both of them, to be real. But get Ugarte on loan, and then it shouldn't be too hard to get Sander Berg out of Burnley. Do you know what I mean? 20 million.
That'll be a full razor.
You know
the problem is that PSG are dickheads. In the sense that who buys a player? I think they bought him at 57 and don't play him and then try and sell him at 60. Like, who? Like, what world are they living in? Like, this is a new era for United. We're not that dickhead team anymore who's going to wait till the transfer deadline and then just
welcome Man United to astute buying. You didn't know this happened before, did you?
Actual decent business works. Do you see what I'm saying? So PSG are being dickheads with Ugarte. And I think that's where the Sander Berg thing is gathering momentum. Yeah,
definitely. I look at your new signing in Zerti. Might as well get from the gold chain on his nose. Himself. Ronaldinho Regan. I'm like, hold on a second. Like, if you like back heels, not flicks and tricks. No, brother, I need to stick at the back of the net. I don't need all of that. But obviously, he calls himself a 9.5, so I get it. He's that man that's going to link the play, tie it up, be technically good, etc., incite the fans. And if you're going to be more progressive and be more controlled in possession, like have a technical base, he's your guy. Like, I think United were lacking a bit of that last season. Players that can actually play ball. And so the more you get of those type of players, the better, in my opinion. And they're not far off. I mean, like I said, Euro was unfortunate getting injured, but De Ligt's not bad cover. You know what I'm saying? De Ligt used to be at Ajax, world class at ball carrying. Do you know what I'm saying? I think like Juventus, the coach coached it out of him. That's why you're not seeing it as much.
I don't know. I think that might be a bit of a myth, Ash. And the reason I say that is, look, it is unfortunate for Euro, but it's fortunate for United that Euro got injured for a short period of time, right? Because it put pressure on us to get De Ligt in. It put pressure on us to go and get another centre back that can play the football that Ten Hag wants to play. But with De Ligt, he was insane at Ajax. Everybody,
100%.
He went to Juve.
Generational, some would say.
Yeah, I mean, the expectations on him was very high, right?
Yeah.
He's gone to Juve. They've won the league in a season where he's played well. He goes to Bayern Munich for £70 million as a 22-year-old, 23-year-old. And Bayern Munich don't come in and spend that kind of money. Bayern Munich are historically great buyers.
Yeah,
they started the wave that Real Madrid are now on. Now we don't pay, like, if you don't accept peanuts, we're not paying. You will have peanuts for this player, or they'll come to us for free. Like Bayern Munich started that, so they paid 70 million pounds for him, 70 million euros for him. It would have been, not based on him not performing at Juve. They paid that based on him performing. I think the injuries is the biggest concern, because he had a few injuries at Bayern Munich. And look, it's not great that Eric Dyer replaced him. That's not something you put on your CV, being replaced by Eric Dyer. However, Eric Dyer and he outdone Upamecano. He outdone De Ligt. He played really, really well in that Bayern team. And when you think about who the manager was, like that's a Tuchel type of player, isn't it? Do you see what I mean? Somebody who can defend the low block really well. De Ligt just wasn't that. He's not that guy who's going to defend the low block. He can. He's physical, but that's not who you have for your. If you want a defensive low block player, you may as well stick with Harry Maguire, right? So I think it's a really, really, really good bit of business from United to get De Ligt in. And I think he's a leader. He's somebody who's going to come and whip the back four into shape. He's somebody who's going to talk to the other defenders and say, get here. This is the line. Hold your run. Make your run. Close down. He's going to be a real example in the dressing room. And I think that's a really, really good bit of business. I'm excited to see him performing.
So you all heard it first.
And I'm going to send him my invoice for that piece of PR right there.
Some serious. Got me convinced.
I'm interested to see if he does bring that ball carrying side of him that I saw at Ajax back out at United, because that could be a different type of weapon. If like you're able to start attacks from the back, like we've got Romero, Mickey van der Ven does it sometimes, but if United could add that to their arsenal, where like you can add extra things.
And it will put less pressure on Manu to have to do that, or make him Fernandes having to drop deep, where you probably want him more in the final third, causing damage, really. So yeah, you're right. So Joms, before we let you go, points predictions and for the season coming. Now, obviously, Man United finished on 60 points, same as Newcastle, 5 points behind Tottenham. As the squad stands now, for Man United, Tottenham, and obviously Newcastle, what is your points prediction for the season coming?
We have to be in the mid-70s to have any chance of doing anything. If we're not at least in the mid-70s, look, let's have it proper. Man City have completely changed this league, right? 80 points might win you a league before Pep comes.
Yeah,
mid-80s might win you a league. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. Now you're looking to win a league. You're looking in your mid to high 90s. If you ain't, do you see what I mean? Like to be Garrow a league, you need to be hitting your 97s, 100s, right? So, but for me, mid-70s, in the way the league looks now, with all the competition, with teams that can hurt you and score goals left, right, and centre, That's the very minimum that I'm looking for, and that's going to put a lot of pressure on that attacking line, because you're not going to get mid-70s by having a defense that doesn't concede. You're going to get your mid-70s by having an attack that scores goals. So yeah, I would say I would be happy with between your 74s and 78s if that's enough to get us into the top 4.
Okay, so mid-70s for Man United. I'll let you have a quick look at Tottenham squad. What's your views? Where do you think Tottenham will end up points-wise? Oh, it hasn't added to the stage.
Oh, for me?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a tough one. It's a real tough one. Spurs could go either way. Spurs could either blow this league apart and do what they was doing in the first 10 games and replicate that and go on a trajectory that's bonkers. And I think Ange has it in him.
Yeah.
Or we could see what we've seen with Spurs in the past, where the first season of the manager is brilliant, and then the second season we start to get arguments with the board, and then the third season we see a sacking. Spurs are very similar to United in that way. So it's really, really tough. I actually think you do have some goals in you. If your lineup is like this: Kulusevski down the right, Solanke in the middle, Son on the left. For me, I don't see Johnson as that guy. I think he's a bright young prospect, but I think he has no business starting games for you guys. I don't think he's the player that he's the player that should be learning from your Kulusevskis and your Sons, and then in a couple of seasons develop. So if the attacking line is the way it is here, and Madders has a decent season, it could go bananas. It could be problems for the league. So I think Spurs will finish in and around the same kind of points in the mid-70s as well. I'm going to go safe and say like between 74 and 78 as well.
Back of that, what do you have to do to get top 4? How much points do you accumulate to get top 4? You're saying if United gets 70 points, Spurs gets 70 points. What's your top 4 looking like?
For me, the top 4 will be who wins that second tier battle, and it's going to be who can win the home games and get at least draws in the away games in that cluster of clubs that includes Chelsea, Spurs, United, Liverpool, Newcastle, and Villa. That chunk of clubs, whoever doesn't lose away and wins at home, that's going to determine the top 4 for me. So I don't even think it's going to be like a big blowout in terms of, I think there'll be a gap between Arsenal and City, and then the 3rd till 7th place could be very tight in terms of points tally, but it's just the odd draw away from home and not losing. Do you see what I mean? I think that's gonna determine the top 4.
So the team with the best home form, the team that has the best fortress, the team that's got like, oh damn, we've got to go over there.
And that's what got United 3rd the season before. It wasn't our away form. We conceded too many goals away from home, but at home we had a really good record. Do you see what I mean? Like nobody weren't coming there to take points. So that's what I think is gonna dictate who gets into the top 4.
Yeah, I hear it.
Newcastle, from what you can see.
Now, Newcastle, I think it's a fitness game. And if you can keep Isak fit, then I think you've got a decent chance of getting to that top 4. And look, Villa have done great business as well. It's absolutely ridiculous. I do not like this Premier League. It's ridiculous. I miss the days where it was just United and Arsenal and everybody. I just miss those days because it's actually stupid at the moment. Like you look at the players Villa are going for, like what on earth? And then Newcastle are going to be ridiculous as well. So again, it's a safe bet, but I think Newcastle will hit I actually think the drop off in the squad with Newcastle could be the problem when you have some injuries. That second string, and I don't know if you've recruited enough for that second string to be as good as the first string. So I would say Newcastle might just miss out and hit the early 70s in terms of points. So yeah, but look, all it takes is an Isak run of games, 10 games, 15 games without any breaks, without any injuries. And look, we're all doomed if that happens. So yeah.
Yoms, you smashed it. Thank you very, very much. I know that I've took you a little bit over time, but I appreciate you for jumping on. We'll carry on here, but I don't know if you wanted to drop a plug or anything else like that before you go.
As I always say, you can't find me, don't at me. You can only see me on these on Ashmatic and Toon Tactics streams. That's where you can find me. Love, bro. Safe, man.
Big up to you, sir. Have a great evening. Take care.
Cheers. Safe, man.
Ash, while we're on Newcastle, we'll probably end it up with Spurs. Actually, let me be a good host. Let me go back to.
You can talk about Newcastle.
Yeah. Okay. I'll stick on. Have I changed it? All right. So, whilst we've got Newcastle on, and because what I wanted to talk about was his strengths and weaknesses and everything else. And it's always difficult because everybody knows their team better than everybody else. Like I was obviously in Newcastle yesterday and the day before, and I got to see our team play Girona and Brest, and we had two separate teams that were playing in those games. So, for instance, Bruno and Barnes played against Brest, and Isak, Joe Linton, and those guys played against Girona. And I went with a mate of mine who's an Arsenal fan.
Yeah.
And he actually said to me, he wasn't sure which Newcastle team was better, which was an good indication to me that our depth is pretty decent. It's a little bit underrated. But I don't think people would know that unless you kind of watch Newcastle too much and whatnot. So, for instance, I did say that obviously our right centre back, right wing forward position needs to be upgraded, but if you look at from Barnes, Gordon on the left side midfield is pretty good. Joe and Willock is pretty good. We've got a Jamie Mine and a Lewis Mine who are academy players, but I've recently moved into first team who are decent, but we could always kind of see how they go. Obviously up behind Bruno, Isak Wilson, Longstaff Tonali. Now Longstaff could move on. But I personally don't mind if he stays. He gets a lot of stick from the fan base sometimes, but I always say that you can only judge a fish on it swimming, not on it running or riding a bicycle. And sometimes I feel like people want Longstaff to be a Perlo when he's just like he himself described himself as the guy, I tackle, get the ball and give it to Bruno. He himself said that. As long as he does that, then he's okay.
He does it well.
Say again?
He's got a job and he does it well. He's a dustman.
Yeah.
He takes that.
And that's it. And that's it. Exactly. Obviously, we've got a right back, Livramento and Trippier. That's not bad. Shaw, Lascelles, but hopefully we'll have Shaw Gahey. That'll be the upgrade. Dan Byrne, Botman. I thought Botman underneath because he's currently out of an ACL, but obviously an upgrade there. Lewis Hall and Lloyd Kelly, who I think is great, and Pope. And I think we've got John McCullough this year. So it's not perfect, but I don't think the depth is as bad as folks think that it is. Obviously, key players are Joe Linton, Bruno, Pope, and Isak for me, and Gordon are for me as well. That's kind of our main strengths. When you look at the Newcastle team, and from a Tottenham perspective, whenever you've played us, and I know you do your tactical breakdowns, especially. In relation to Tottenham, when you consider the tactics and everything else, what's the main threats from Newcastle that you've had to deal with that you thought of last year, or maybe in this year coming forward? Actually, now that because obviously last year we've had injuries and stuff like that. But if you look at this squad now, and what would be kind of the main places from a Tottenham perspective you probably look to exploit?
Yeah, so I look at Newcastle, and I think the most obvious one would be Isak and Gordon. They're the ones that cause the most havoc for us. But as I said in the piece before, I felt like Bruno Guimaraes was the one that would get on the ball, and he could, quickly sort his feet out, have his back to goal, on a half turn and spray balls up the top into these type of players, and that's what will give us all types of trouble. I've rated Harvey Barnes for a long time. I was conflicted with whether I wanted him or Madison. I didn't know which one I should go for, and that's how highly I rated Harvey Barnes. I just think he's a menace in front of goal. He's electric, good decision making, composed as well, and so that just adds depth there when you got Harvey Barnes and Gordon fighting for one place. And then again, I think a lot of people aren't really talking about Tonali. I know he's on a 3-match ban, but I feel like he brings your midfield up another level. He can add another 50, 60 million to that price tag that we're doing in the transfer market. I think he's that good. I watched him against us when he was playing for AC Milan in the Champions League, and we're at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. He was amazing. I just said, it feels like a throwback of the 90s. I just felt so assured on the ball, good decision making, good footballer. It's good to see good footballers, because a lot of time we're seeing a lot of athletes, a lot of running, a lot of this and that. What does he do? What I don't understand. It's like when I first saw Rice at West Ham, everyone was raving on about him, and I just didn't understand what he did. So I had to watch him properly. But with Tonali, it's just in your face. It's obvious. And I like players like that. Someone that's got a good technical base, good technical level, can defend, can attack, knows when to go as well, positionally, knows where to be on the pitch. So good football IQ all around, and links up with play. It's just a thorn in someone else's side. If you're opposition, you don't want to play against such a young guy as well. Mature head, I feel like, on the pitch, decision making in that sense. I really rate him. And I just think, as I said before, he just takes you up to another level. For me, that's the pros. I think the negatives have to be in the back line, in my opinion. I think the way Newcastle set up, as I said before earlier, is quite similar to Spurs at times, where they're quite front-footed and they're quite aggressive off the ball, try to win the ball high up. And sometimes what you do is you commit some of your defenders will go a little bit higher up and you create that high line. I just think with Dan Burn being there, I think when we played you lot, it was like, let's go after him. He really got that speed, that turn of pace, that acceleration to kind of help you out defensively. I think he's good aerially because he's tall, he's massive, he's a unit. And he did, for me, to be fair, as weak as I call him, a weakness, I thought position he was quite astute. On the ball, not too bad either. I looked at him, I said, actually, you know what? Dan Burn's not a bad player, even though he hasn't got a pace. He makes up for it in other ways. But I think, getting a player back like Botman will be crucial. But I just don't know how or what type of Botman will get him back. Those knee injuries, your rotational, your lateral movement, it's not quite the same. Is he gonna lose a yard of pace? Is he gonna be apprehensive when it comes to challenges, etc.? So it's an area, if I was a Newcastle fan, something I would look to strengthen. Pope was out for a long period as well. So it'll be good to see him back, and I think that improves your back line completely. So there's not too many weaknesses. I'd say your fullbacks could get got at. On the ball, they're good, but without it, I think you can get down the sides with Newcastle. I think your rest defense, I have seen you do a back three at times, not always a back two. Correct me if I'm wrong. And so that's what I mean by how being tactically flexible and adapting to a situation at times in games. So that's why I feel you've got a dangerous manager on your hands there. And that's where he could probably get the edge on Ange, unless Ange does. But coming into Tottenham, I don't know if I can. Oh, sorry.
No, you can.
Before I even get there, where do I think Newcastle could end up? I think Villa could fall off, and Newcastle could possibly finish, depending what Spurs do in the next few windows. As things stand, I think Newcastle could pip Spurs to maybe a 5th place.
Really?
Yeah, I honestly do, because if you guys sort out that right wing, I think Jacob Murphy has. I think your manager's done brilliantly to get the best out of Jacob Murphy. Amarim has kind of fallen off for me. He's not that guy. But if again, it's like we've got a similar situation with Spurs. If you guys get a player on that right wing, Madueke, I think outside the box, people sleep at the type of goals he scores from outside. Tremendous finishing. I really like Madueke.
He suits us down to a T in terms of, I know the attitude and stuff like that, but his take-ons, just like Gordon, just like that.
He turned our fullbacks inside out. We went to Stamford Bridge, and I was like, "Oh my, we haven't got a winger that can do this. This is so annoying. Why can we not have a winger that can beat a man?"
What do you say?
Inside, it's just
outside, inside. What did you think of? Because I haven't seen this too much, and I think it's something that can be sorted out. People keep on saying about his output, i.e., last pass, shot selection and stuff. I know that isn't the greatest.
He's raw. That's what it is. He just needs more game time. If you look at the amount of games he's played and the amount of games he started, especially, he started under 20 games.
Yes,
and he's what?
But even in those games, he was in those 20 games that he had, he was substituted in 13 of them. After 56. Yeah, so it's just
so how is he meant to learn his trade if he's not playing regular minutes?
He played 1,000 minutes. 1,000 minutes.
Give him exactly. Like I saw what he did at PSV. He was that guy. Do you know what I'm saying? He was the one getting more than 8 goals a season. Do you know what I mean? So he's got that in him. I know it was a lower league in the Dutch league. People don't really rate that, but he's got the attributes from what I've seen in his first season back in the Premiership. Well, I say back in it's the first time he's been in the Premiership, and also he's got that thing about him. Like as soon as you're a winger, you need to just be direct, and he's got that. Yeah. I don't like wingers that get the ball, they're not sure, they turn back on themselves and they pass.
Anthony Gordon, not Anthony Gordon, Anthony from Man United.
Yeah, Brennan Johnson.
Werner
does it as well. Son does it to a T as well, to a degree. Yeah. So certain times they just haven't got the confidence. They're like, I can't do that. So I'm gonna, rather than losing the ball, I'm gonna pass it and then keep possession that way. No, bro. If you take a man on and you lose, I ain't gonna be mad. But if you're not taking him on, then what's the point of you being there? Like that's the purpose of a winger, right? So
he would have seen his England teammate Anthony Gordon totally smash, going from 6 goals maximum to 20 goals a season. And Anthony would have been on the phone to him and saying, well, you've seen what happened to me, bruv. So it can happen for you. But just know that you're not taking the penalties. Just know that.
About left footers, they're just different.
Say again?
There's something different about left footers. He's left footed, right?
He is, yeah.
Something about left footers. I've always, from school days, like my friends have been left footers. Every time
I'm left footed.
Is it? Yeah. It's like your brain just is wired differently because I feel like you're more creative. I don't know if it's just me, but I've always rated left footers. And the fact that he can shoot from outside the box and hit the target, I said, there's something in this kid, but it just needs the right manager, the right club, and as you said, the minutes. But we move anyway.
I'm surprised. I'm not surprised that you said it, but I'm like, at this stage, obviously, we're not talking about the end of the, that you kind of see Newcastle squad pipping.
Because
Tottenham.
The reason being is that I think you lot got top 4 the season before, and I think the reason why you didn't get top 4, you play very similar in terms of intensity, energy. Yeah. You didn't have a swap depth for Champions League. No. You ran out of legs, you ran out of energy. And like I said, when we played you lot looked tired. Yeah. And then when you dropped out of that competition, we played you again. I was like, oh, they're back again. It was like, beginning part, hey! Like, just the first 3 games, you tore teams apart. Yeah. And then when you came out of the competition, it was like, oh, Newcastle are back again. Do you understand? Yeah. And then obviously the injuries never helped you. And that's what tell you about, like, you've had crucial injuries to crucial places. And then the gambling didn't help with it was just a series of things that happened all at once. And then I look at Spurs and I'm like, all right, so we're more in the headlines because we've got the big signings over the, like, the Greys and the Solankes, but I still not convinced on our setup when we're getting counter-attacked. Set pieces against Bayern Munich, we conceded exactly the same way we conceded against Brentford, Everton, Arsenal, and Chelsea. 2 players at the back post, unmarked, unheard of. Same goal, like it was Upamecano who scored a header, and Gnabry was free as well. And they played that every time. What they did is get the ball, just like Newcastle, switch the play to one flank. Once you switch the ball to one flank, Poro's out of position. You just roller coaster down that line. You make a cross into the box, and the rest is history. And so, like, had I not seen that against Newcastle, and that was painful to watch, and then see that again against Bayern Munich in a pre-season friendly, it feels like nothing's been addressed, and we're still playing with 2 as a rest defense as opposed to 3, even though they said, "Oh, the coaches are thinking about changing it." And so it just gives me a few more concerns. And obviously, because I'm looking at my club and I'm being a lot more critical with my club compared to your club, I'm looking at Newcastle. I said, even Newcastle that are gun ho, even they have a rest defense of 3 at the back at times.
Yeah.
So if like it's almost like you're trying to reinvent the wheel, and you're saying, "Look, my way works. It doesn't matter. We're going to keep doing it. We're going to keep doing it. We're going to keep doing it." But the league's told you, "Look, if you want to like get past this is what you have to do." And it's like, all right, if he doesn't learn, then the league will teach you. And that's the reason why I said there's a possibility you guys could pip us for that reason. However, and you can bring on Tottenham's thing now if you want.
Is it not on now?
No. Oh yeah, it is. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So with the Spurs one, I think Gray for me doesn't start ahead of Bentancur, in my opinion.
Okay.
Only because Bentancur has the experience over him. I think, and this is where I caveat my whole argument, what I just did. When I saw Basuma versus Bentancur, I think in terms of pressing, Bentancur is a lot more efficient. He wins more tackles because of his positioning and how close he is to that player. Remember I said to you, boom, the players need to get closer to your Dan Burns or your Bruno Ramirez from switching the play.
Yeah.
Bentancur does that. And he gives you control and safety on the ball because he picks up the ball closer to the centre-backs at times. He's able to mix it up either by ball carrying, dribbling, or balls over the top or like switches of play. Whereas Basuma can only beat you by carrying the ball, dribbling, or doing small tiki-taka passes, like medium to short passes. I think Bentancur in the 6, he gives you a bit more dictatorship, a bit more playmaking from deep. Gives you more variety. So it gives you more things to think about. So I'm like, right, you know what? Times what Ange can do, and a lot of people haven't said this. I've been watching a lot of Spurs streams. I'm gonna bust it tomorrow. Spurs play very narrow. With the 2 backs inverting.
Yeah.
Now, what Ange can do, and what he has done, is okay. I'm playing narrow. Now I'm going to play with a little bit more width. And so what he does, instead of playing so narrow, he allows those inverted fullbacks or whoever's playing in those positions spread out a little bit more. So then now we're not so narrow. And that's how you keep the 2-3-5, but the 3 in front of the 2, so you've got the 2 centre backs, and then you've got the 3 in the midfield. 3 in the midfield is going to be the 6, and the 2 inverted fullbacks. Sometimes because we play positional play, it's not always the inverted fullback. Sometimes it might be a Maddison there. Do you know what I'm saying? Or sometimes it might be Kulu or Sarr there. Do you know what I'm saying? We interchange. We're a bit more fluid. So yeah, in that 2-3-5, what you will have is, as I said, Pedro Porro might pull wider closer to the byline. The doggy might pull a bit wider. So all of a sudden now we've covered up that pitch coverage. It's not as bad. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then, like you said, that like you're doing there, Sarr and Madison, they're in the pockets. And then that in turn gives freedom to your attacking mids or your 2-8s. So, and then Ange is saying he wants different profiles to not just on the wings. So Kulusevski, he's more technical, more of a technical dribbler, someone that can use his strength, agility to beat players. Brennan Johnson's more a running behind. So with Son, if we had another winger who's not a running behind like Son is, because Werner's a bit similar to him, he likes to run behind. If we had a different profile on the wingers, that in itself is a different tactic. And similar, as you were saying before, with a Madison or even a Sarr, if we had a box crasher or someone that likes to press with legs in the midfield, that would change the dynamic of Spurs. And then we solve different issues that we have defensively. Because if you've got a Joe Linton, for example, to come on for Madison, and we're not going man for man, because that's what Ange wants, man for man.
Man for man.
Oh, man for man. So you know what he means by that? We're
Yeah.
not aggressively enough. We're not close enough. And that's how they're beating our press. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a dangerous tactic because you have to be brave to do the man-to-man, because it just takes one or two players to beat that press or dribble past them or couple 1-2s and they beat in the press and then all of a sudden you're exposed. But as I said, if they beat that first line of press, then the three in front of the two, they need to be a little bit wider. What I've noticed about the back two in Romero and Van der Ven, sometimes it's Romero, it's the stopper, the enforcer.
Yeah.
So he engages earlier on, and Van der Ven acts like the sweeper, and he plays a little bit further back, and that's why you're always seeing him clean it all up. Do you know what I mean? So with that extra line of defense when Romero steps up, Bentancur has to be switched on and say, all right, cool, I need to drop off here. Basuma sometimes is as good as he is on the ball. Off the ball, sometimes he switches off. And positionally, he might be out of position. And then you just see him, his recovery runs aren't quick enough, in my opinion. He hasn't got that burst of pace, that acceleration, if balls go over the top or balls go diagonal. But that's just how I see it in a nutshell.
Do you think, now, because obviously, I know that you're not saying this, but I know if Postecoglou knows this, in terms of dictating the tempo of a game, because it can't be 100 miles an hour for the 90 minutes, you know. Right. It's partly the reason why we've got a Tonali, and people didn't get to see that because he was away. But had we had Tonali last season, people would have seen a lot more us dictating play a lot more. Because if you've got a Tonali, a Bruno in the middle, you've got guys that it's very difficult to get the ball off them, and they're going to dictate the play. And hopefully, if Botman wasn't injured and you got Shaw, you got ball playing centre backs, you can dictate the play a lot more, give the team a lot more rest.
Correct.
But the thing is, I know that you've had your injuries, but even when you didn't have your injuries, I don't get the sense of
control. Right. And this is why I thought Bentancur might add that, because he's a bit more cultured on the ball. As I said, he is press resistant, like playing out from the back. He's able to go long, switch to play, and sometimes he wants it to feed. So I think it was against Aston Villa where Lo Celso and Bentancur, both of them to put their foot on the ball, but both of them can play and spray from deep. That's when we ripped Villa a new one. And loads of people, if you're not a Spurs fan, you wouldn't be privy to see this game. We actually ended up drawing the game. We actually ended up losing the game, in fact. But it was the best Spurs game. You know, you're talking about highs or whatever.
Yeah.
For me, even though we lost that game, I said, if this is Ange ball, I'm involved. Because it was a mixture of rah, but then sometimes it was control. Do you know what I mean? I was like, wow, I ain't seen this. I'm seeing Lo Celso deep. I'm seeing Bentancur deep. And they didn't know how to deal with us because they're like, did we press Lo Celso and Bentancur? Because when they tried to press them, they would dribble past them. If they stood off them, then they would through ball into Son, through ball into Kulu. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Balls over the top. And I was like, wow, this is something tactically different. So if I'm Spurs and Lo Celso leaves, because I think technically he's good, and we're not necessarily going to get your Joe Lintons or your Conor Gallagher's, even though that Conor Gallagher move's broken down, keep an eye on that one. I remember at the ITV network studios for the Euros, our manager, or my manager, was privy enough to do some commentary and talk about.
Yeah.
And he was very impressed by Brian Ruiz from PSG. Now,
Right.
I'm not saying we're going to get him. It just shows to me that my manager likes different profiles. So I'm like, oh, okay. You actually do like technical players. So on my next show, guys, if Newcastle fans, if you want to come over, I will be looking at players that can put their foot on the ball, that are available in Europe, that I think that could help players like a Bentancur out, or even a Basuma, so we can help play out from the back. And it's not always, we're trying to catch teams fast because we're doing quick transitions. There's times when you slow it down, control the game, manage it, when it's 2-0 and, you can't quite score, but you got 20 minutes left,
Yeah.
in the door, and it can mix it up. They don't always want to dribble because teams study you. All right, okay. Basuma wants to turn on the D, outside the box. All right, cool. We'll put 2 men there. I'll make sure you press him aggressively so he can't see off his right shoulder. We're gonna run from that angle so you can't see, and then we get him that way. So we have to mix it up. The only other player I would say that we have like that, and lots of fans are going early. Some fans are saying we're going too soon because he's only 18.
Mm-hmm.
It's not Gray. He goes by the name of Lucas Bergvall.
Right.
Lucas Bergvall, lots of fans are calling for Maddison to be dropped for him. That's how good of a pre-seasons he's had. And his Barcelona, they were all...
Can I just interrupt you? Because just before you said that, and I don't know if it was going to, I don't know, I think, because as you was talking, I was looking at Maddison. And the reason I was looking at Maddison, and this goes to your question, you about to talk about Bergvall, and I'm going to ask you this: can Bergvall do this? Essentially, I know that I've heard about him being on the ball. So to play the way you guys want to play, or the way you're suggesting as well, but maybe a bit more on Postecoglou. And Maddison's role is very interesting, and this is why me and you probably really like Morgan Gibbs-White, because he's very good at this. If you get an Adoji pushing up like this,
correct, yeah.
And maybe a Bentancur is also pushing up or doing something. And you've got these two here.
Yeah.
Does a Maddison, which I don't think he does, but Joe Linton does, for example, have the tactical nous to say, I'm going to plug this hole here. I know I'm Maddison. I know I'm good on the ball, but we've got
you understand it.
Okay.
The fans don't understand it.
Right.
James Maddison playing as a 6? Why is James Maddison playing at left back? That's what he's doing. Before Odegaard did it, he was the man picking the ball up from deep. And then he was doing those balls with the outside of his boot where he kind of like curves it around the player. But for whatever reason, when he came back for injury, those passes weren't coming off. And then the fans got onto Maddison saying, why does he keep dropping into this fullback role? Why is he
right?
That's when the argument I'm having with a lot of YouTubers is you need a specific player for a specific job. And I'm like, I think modern football requires you to be able to do multiple jobs. There's no longer a player that just sits, especially when you want a dictator. When you want a dictator, you want him to pick it off the fullback, progress the play.
Well, Tony Cruz does this for Real Madrid.
Yeah, he does. And in the Euros, we saw it as well.
Yeah.
When, he was playing as a third centre back at times, or fullback. And
if you can master this. Sorry to interrupt you, Ash. And I appreciate I'm going over time. I'm really sorry. I'm just going into the mode now. Sorry, folks. Because if you can master this bit, I know it seems strange because we're talking about the back line, but we're also talking about scoring goals. But if you can master this bit, any team, any high pressing team, something as simple as filling in gaps, doing this, it could the rest of it, the attacking side takes care of itself. You become better defensively, and you become better. It's what happened to us in the season that went to the Champions League. It almost became fun for us. I'll tell you what, that was where we had Joe Linton here. If you guys can see the screen,
yeah, I can see it.
And we had Joe. We'd almost do this. We'd do this for fun almost. We would intentionally push our fullbacks forward
Yeah.
and intentionally leave gaps here.
Yeah.
And people thought they can go in there.
Aston Villa thought they could.
Aston
And he got
Villa.
punished.
Exactly. hence the phrase counter press.
My friends, a lot of people just don't know. I mean, trust me.
Right.
It's hard talking to people that aren't privy to what the actual intentions are during the game, and like, you know, there's certain things that we intentionally do. Do you know what I mean? People don't really see it that way. So football's a bit more black and white for some people, but the devil's in the detail. The devil is in the detail. And people think we only invert Udogie, but I've personally seen Udogie out wide, and then sometimes I've seen him invert. I've seen Maddison play wide. I've seen Bergvall. What I like about Bergvall, if I can carry on, Bergvall, what he does, he appears all over the pitch. So certain times I would see Maddison only appear on the left, or play in the left back row, left mid, or in the midfield. But I've seen Bergvall play on the left side, play on the right side, and then play in the 6. Now, with Spurs, when we play in Bayern Munich, Pedro Porro, he was the 6 sometimes. He was the one that helped with the build-up because he's got great passing ability. He can do balls over the top. He can switch to play. So sometimes he was the pivot, you know, that would help us progress up the pitch. Sometimes Sarr would come back in a fullback role, and he would start as a right back, and then
so Sarr was feeling the chemistry as well. Like he's like, okay.
Sarr had good chemistry. To be fair, at the first 10 games, his chemistry with Basuma was spot on. Big brother, little bro. Big bro, little bro. The chemistry was spot on. And what we did well was on the right-hand side, we would overload the pitch with 3 or 4 players. So we would have Basuma pull off to the right. You'd have Porro pull off to the right. You'd have Sarr pull off to the right. And then Kulusevski might pull off to the right. And so what that does is it pulls the team to one side and then gaps that appearing.
Okay.
So what they would do is 2-touch football, boom, 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 boom. Before you know it, Sarr's doing a through ball into Maddison. Maddison's running on the end of it. No one's picked up Maddison, by the way, because they're too focused on the 4 players that are doing diamonds and triangles on one side of the pitch, freeing up those half spaces and the left-hand side that Maddison's run onto and then finish first time. But because it happened so quick, you know, most fans, they only remember the goals where we go down the sides, we play it across the box, and we tap it in. But they forget about the intricate play that we did. We've got different ways to play. We do. And the reason why we're able to do that same play where we go down the channel, cross it in the box, is because we transition so fast. Literally, if you see the build-up play, when it goes right, it goes right. But when it goes wrong, fans hate it. And they're like, why did we play out the back for? Blah, 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 blah. Not realizing that's how you bait the press. You bait the press. That's when the gaps happen in behind, and it looks like we're counter-attacking. It looks like Spurs are a counter-attacking team. We're not. It's just that we're clever, that we're sucking our positions into our own half, and that leaves space in behind. It's just that in that first season, we kind of lost our way, because the first 10 games, it was like, wow, I can't believe we picked it up so quickly. And then when you change your doggy for Ben Davis, or you change your doggy for
the makeup changes.
When Maddison's on the half turn, he's looking for your doggy, saying, I want to put into your doggy's feet. But Emerson Royal can't get on the half turn like your doggy. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Emerson Royal only knows to do the fake false run to take players with him. He doesn't know, I'm comfortable with the ball at my feet. I'm comfortable in the wide positions. I can have that burst of pace, acceleration to beat a man. Only your doggy can do that. And so I felt like with Ange, he only trusted a certain amount of players, and the rest of the squad, he had to fill in the gaps because of injuries, X, Y, Z, like you did with Eddie Howe, Newcastle. Do you know what I mean? When certain players dropped off, it's like, okay, cool. I'm gonna have to use the academy boys because he's got no other options. Do you know what I mean? The squad's not in depth enough yet, and I'm sure other clubs could probably vouch for this as well. They probably have the same type of issues. Do you know what I mean? When Man City lost Rodri, for example, they struggled.
Yes.
And I remembered when with Man City, they inverted Rico Lewis in as a midfielder. You know, he was playing right back. Kyle Walker was different. Kyle Walker, they would make him do the overlapping, but Rico Lewis, they would invert him into midfield to protect the gaps that Roger would leave. Do you know what I'm saying? So there's a little bit of different tactical flexibility, knowing the players, what you missed, etc. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so, yeah. It's not so black and white. It's not so black and white, but I still have my concerns. Like I said, for Spurs, like if these certain plugs aren't filled up, I can see Newcastle finishing above us. I'm being real, bro. I'm being real. It's just for that reason, because, and I said before, that set piece issue. We're not defending. A lot of people are saying, we didn't have our back four. That's the reason why we conceded those goals. No, I felt like even if your doggy was there, like we've been conceding goals from that back post anyway.
Yes.
So it's a bit crazy. So those things that I think Ange kind of neglects, he's like, I want to win more goals from set pieces as opposed to defend more goals from set pieces. You know what I mean? If I look back at Celtic, I think some of the Celtic fans criticized him, from what I read, for that same reason. Set pieces, he's no good. Do you know what I mean? So it is worrying. You know, if those same things keep happening, what can you do?
How do you think that also? Now, our folks are going way over time. Actually, I won't, but I just want, because it got into a good conversation. But I take set pieces as it's a tactical thing what the manager does, but I think it's a personnel thing. I think you've got to have a personnel that want to clear. I'm not saying no team gets set piece and said, we're going to concede, but there's something about having the mentality of we're never going to concede. I don't care what these guys do, and being alive and being alert, and to be that vulnerable to set pieces like that.
You know what it is? You know what it is? When you go man for man, but your man is short and that man is tall, what are we even doing there? So, for example, Solanke's been introduced into our team. At Bournemouth, he was good at defending set pieces. Do you know what I mean? Defensively, if you look at his stats aerially compared to even Richarlison, even Tony, his defensive stats in terms of winning the ball in the air is super high. So if you've got, I remember Kane used to be brilliant for us on set pieces when we were defending. He'll get us out of trouble. Richarlison as well. Again, he's been out for a lot of the season. Him defending the box, he's got the height, he's got the physicality, and he's aggressive in terms of winning those headers. That's his actual weapon. So there is a world when you've got a doggy who's slightly taller than maybe Ben Davies at left back, and then you've got left centre back, and then you've got a Dominic Solanke that's fit, you know, defending those corners.
Even Ashley, Isak defends corners for us. Isak,
he's quite tall, isn't it?
He's very tall. He's 6'5", 6'6".
There you go.
He gets into position like I'm watching him, he's very alive and alert.
So that's my point. If you look at Arsenal, for example, they're giants. Used to be back in the day when we grew up, they were all midgets. But now you look at Gabriel, 6 foot monster. Pause. Saliba, 6 foot plus. Do you know what I'm saying? Calafiori, they just bought. Do you know what I mean? They've got their right. Ben White's he's not short. They've got their backline party. He's tall. Do you know what I'm saying? Havertz, good in the air. So there's a reason why they're good at set pieces, and maybe Spurs are so poor at set pieces. If you're going man for man, and that's what we're trying to do, or a mixture of man to man and zonal, then and the young players we had switching off, it's gonna happen. You know, they need people around them that are a bit more experienced at doing box defender. Goalkeeper as well. I said it before, even when we bought him, my worry was that he's not commanding enough of the box. Flaps at it. I saw that when I was doing analysis on him. I was like, oh, Marlon, look, he flapped there. Look, it looks a bit. So that's something he needs to work on as a goalkeeper. He needs to come either punch those.
That's a personality thing as well.
Yeah, definitely. But he's quite aggressive. He's a talker. He's loud. But I just realized when the ball's in the air and they're crossing it, he's not the best at dealing with those type of situations, in my opinion. Hence why teams figured it out, put a man on him, and then before you know it, Man City did it first in the FA Cup, and then ever since then, he's been a liability in that position. Do you know what I mean? But again, that's something he needs to work on. There's nothing we can really change about that unless we get not this season, but in the next window, we upgrade our number 2, and we proper cover in that area. Because right now we've got an English guy playing number 2 at the moment, so it doesn't look like we're going to fill that position. So yeah, man.
Ash, thank you so much, for coming on. Going way over time, but we got into some real good tactical talk as always. And thank you to the chat. Thank you for the guys that were able to make it right to the end of this. I was just gonna give my prediction real quick, and you took me out of it. I had a whole different view of well, not a whole different view, but it is concerning in terms of where Tottenham are. I was gonna give my kind of prediction on points wise, because you've got more games, you've got Europe as well.
Yes.
And it's gonna get grinding, and then unless you I think you will make a bit more purchases. It sounds like you need another centre back, an aggressive centre back. And for people that keep on slating,
fullback, I'd say when your doggy left, I was
right. A stronger fullback.
Davey at Arsenal versus Saka, we got ripped to shreds.
And even against Gordon, Gordon barged him off the ball for one of the goals. It wasn't great.
When the doggy was out again, I think Emerson Royale played against Liverpool, and Salah had breakfast. Do you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So a proper left back that's on the level of the doggy, that gives him competition, because he's still quite young and he's raw. He's still prone to errors and mistakes, and he made quite a few mistakes that cost us goals. So we need a player that either has a bit more experience, or again they're raw, but they got physicality, they got pace, just like him.
I agree.
We still got that in abundance. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
fullback for me that's a big position to be filled.
Exactly. So fullback, Conor Gallagher type of player. I don't care how much people keep on ripping him, and unless you kind of really study his game, you can see just from speaking our conversation how important somebody like that is. Otherwise, I would say it's looking like in either a replication of what you got in points last season, or perhaps possibly a little bit lower if people aren't careful. So that is a real I kind of see it from that perspective as well.
But, and as I said, because the right wing for me, Kulu's not a right winger. I know we've got Kulu there. He's now a midfielder in my opinion. And Johnson out wide, he's a bit wet behind the ears. If you look at his personality type, like mummy's boy, a bit soft. If he can become a man, which if he can grow into his boots and make a claim, like we were saying earlier, he needs someone to learn off. He needs someone a different profile to him, is a bit more experienced, that can push him. People look at the stats and say, "Oh, he got 10 assists and 5 goals. That's 15 goal contributions. That's quite impressive for a player his first season. That's only 22." But I would argue that a lot of those assists came off the bench, and when he started games, he was nowhere to be seen or heard. He wasn't a guy that can kind of pick himself up off a game if he's not having a good game, if he's getting marked out the game. He's not a person that, all right, we're going to look towards Brendan Johnson. We can build around him. We can rely on him. Some games he didn't even know he was playing. Against Bayern Munich, I forgot he was on the pitch.
Oh, wow.
So we need real presence on that far side. We need goals. It's not just assists. Brendan will give you assists, but we need more of a goal threat on the right. As I said with Son, he's slowing down a bit. He's still our best player by a mile, but we need quality as well. If Son, because sometimes Son doesn't turn up, then what?
Wow.
Then what?
Oh, you've talked me right out of it for Spurs. I'm like, goodness gracious.
Oh yeah, it's just my opinion. I could be wrong. Do you know what I'm saying? And I'm happy for Spurs to put me in the mud. You know what I mean? Sarr needs more creativity, in my opinion. He needs more goals if you're going to be a proper box crasher. But he is evolved a lot in the build-up play, key passing. So like his assist doesn't really show on the metrics. But in terms of he can be inconsistent in terms of losing the ball and in build-up at times.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is his season. He needs to step up. A lot of players need to step up this season. And Basuma hasn't helped himself.
I didn't even get to touch on that, but we're gonna go into the next day. We're gonna go into the next day, folks. Apologies, I'm gonna conclude this show about 10 minutes ago. But guys, for all the ones that were able to make it this far,
put it in the archive. You could use
it. I want to say a big thank you to Ash Matic, to Yoms, and to all the guys in the previous shows that came on. It's been fantastic. I'm doing these live shows with everybody. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Some real good football conversation, because we love banter and everything else, but sometimes you also want to have a little bit of substance and see what's going on with the teams and everything else like that. So guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I've got a travel vlog for Newcastle, for my time at Sunday Cup Newcastle United, coming out this Wednesday, Thursday, so do look out for that. I want to give also Ashley, if you want to plug anything before we go.
Yeah, so tomorrow, catch me on Spurs Kings TV. Possibly having a new show on tomorrow. This might be a new show popping up before my my analysis. Deji's got something that he wants to bring out, so we'll see. And I don't want to say too much. Don't know if it will start a week before the season starts, or if we're going to wait for the season to kick off. But possibly tomorrow, a new show, and straight after I've got my show where we go into the transfer market and we see if we can address the right wing position, if there could be an alternative for Højbjerg, because we've sold him, if there's any player in that role. And that's all I'm going to cover. I'm not going to go too much deep because there's too many talking points, as you know.
Incredible. And do look out for the rival show as well for Wednesday.
We've got the rivals on Wednesday. This is why I don't talk too much, because if I start talking, we'll be there for 5 hours. I'll let you guys do your thing, man.
Guys, thank you for joining us. Like I said, all the stuff we've got to look forward to. And as always, guys, take care and God bless, folks.